Hi, everyone. I'm Madeline Stewart,
And I'm Kristen Trapnell.
and we did our project on how are video games gendered.
First, I'm just going to talk about the influence of gaming and just how it's a booming industry. And in fact, in 1999, Americans bought over 215 million computer and video games, which calculates to more than 2 games per household. And it's even greater than that now since that was 1999. Video games are designed for repeated play. The games cannot be considered a one-time experience, but an ongoing experience that reinforces its social messages. Social learning theory is one way of explaining how children learn about what are acceptable and unacceptable clothing and behaviors within their society through the processes of reinforcement, observation, and imitation. And video games take social learning a step further than movies and TV shows because they allow the user to interact with the text.
So we really focused on the prominence of women in these games. Out of 33 popular Nintendo and Sega games, no female characters were in 41% of the games. 28% of these games, women were portrayed as sex objects. 21% of these games depicted violence directed at women. And then within these games, women were portrayed as victims or damsels in distress, the stereotypical female roles, promiscuous sex objects, prizes, or just not even there. In this picture, you can really see like all of the examples that we just talked about. So, the virtual version of women. What is the representation of women as sex toys, victims, and prizes teaching our young children?
We decided to look specifically at Lara Croft of the Tomb Raider video game since the market expanded, female characters are becoming more commonplace and are becoming more of lead characters in the games. Tomb Raider's character Lara Croft was actually the first woman character to be considered a lead character by the gaming world, so we thought it fitting to look at her. She fights off enemies by her aerobatic fighting moves, so she's fit looking. So she's still fighting in a way that is girlish and pretty looking, even though she's still fighting.
Okay, so here's Lara Croft. Obviously, her physical attributes are she's very fit, she has a busty chest, tiny waist, and big hips, so she's very womanly. This picture kind of raises the question, was this game designed for female gamers or for male fantasy?
Now we're going to look at the Tomb Raider official website, and here it is. We're going to look at how Lara Croft has been designed and characterized, and just analyze that. So first is her age, 21. It's a desirable age for younger players as well, like teenagers, as well as an older crowd. It's kind of a desirable age for all players. They want to make Lara Croft seem realistic, and so 5'6" is a normal height, brown hair, brown eyes. You can see here in the background info, it says she's embarking on her first job after graduating from college, and so it's just creating that normalcy of the character. She lacks confidence, but she grows and is courageous and determined and resourceful. So they like to create a story with it. We're going to analyze the picture we see here of Lara Croft. You see she's very visually appealing. She's very fit and muscular. She's rough and tough looking. You can see in her eyes that she looks very confident and fierce, and just by the way she's standing. She has long hair, and it's kind of in her face, which can be kind of like a sexual innuendo. Her face is pretty. It's thin and skinny. She very much glamorizes aggression in this picture. You can see she's independent and seductive. You can see that she's also not your average 21-year-old body. She has exaggerated features, her busty chest and small waist, kind of bigger hips. You can see that it's not average for a 21-year-old to have that type of body.
Okay, so the influence on children is more than 93% of children in the United States play video games at least sometimes, and this ongoing experience reinforces social messages. The more deluxe games are designed for more than 100 hours of play.
And the first thing that came to mind was social learning theory. So just to recap, this is how children learn about what's acceptable and what's unacceptable clothing and behavior within their society through processes of reinforcement, observation, and imitation. It's a lot of take in what you're observing and what's reinforced to you and applying it to your life. So, for example, in a lot of games, in order to advance to the next stage of the game, it requires the use of violence, and it can be argued that the impression of violence is an effective and preferable method of problem solving for the advancement throughout stages of life. Also, the gender schema theory. So this is the process of applying learned sex concepts to new information might be achieved through the use of schemata. Children form schemata of what behaviors, attitudes, and clothing are appropriately masculine or feminine through accumulated experiences. So basically what they're doing and what they're learning and what they're experiencing, they see that as appropriate behaviors and attitudes and clothing based on their experiences with the games.
So, in conclusion, the effects on children are poor body image leading to pathological dieting practices, so mainly in girls, higher approval of women's use of cosmetic surgery, compulsive weight training, and illegal steroid use, the use of violence and victimization as method of problem solving, a greater rape-supportive attitude among men, and sexual aggression among both males and females.
We basically just thought that a light needed to be shown on just the genderedness of video games and just how women are portrayed in these games and those effects on children.